Ken's Good Vibes Podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of Ken's Good Vibes Podcast, found on YouTube, and it's going to be every Sunday, 1 hour out of every Sunday. This is your host, Kenneth Outwater. And also, Merry Christmas to everybody. I hope you had a wonderful holiday. Also, Happy Kwanzaa to those who celebrate Kwanzaa. Happy Hanukkah, Happy Winter Solstice, Las Posadas, Diwali, and Chinese New Year. Today we'll be jumping into our topics. Our 5 topics of discussion are your favorite things or things you like to do. What do you like to cook? Any things you like to cook. We want to share any recipes and how to make them. The third one will be what are your inspirations and what inspires you. The fourth, it will be what is your favorite type of music? And the fifth being what entertains you? What's your favorite form of entertainment? All right, well, with that being said, let's jump right into it. So tattoos. Tattoos are one of my favorite things, actually. I have 4 of them. One on my shoulder, one on my chest, and one on my wrist, my right wrist, and my left forearm. The very first tattoo I got was back in the year of 2015, and it was early in April, as a matter of fact. And I had put a lot of thought into it, about probably a couple years into it before getting it, actually, because before I didn't have any tattoos, and I came from a background, as you might have heard in the last episode. I let you know that I'm Christian, and I had that upbringing for my whole young adult life. And I carry that with me. So at that time, I thought, tattoos weren't good to get. I didn't want to mark up my body, and I was in that school of thought. But as I got older and I got further into my artistic career and world and knowledge base, I, really adored tattoos, and I really saw, myself getting one. I just didn't know exactly what I wanted to get. I knew I wanted it to be something meaningful. So, come time, like I said, around April 2015, I drew up a tattoo. I did a few roughs beforehand in Photoshop, and it's of an owl, a great horned owl at the very top. And then as the tattoo goes down on my arm, there is 2 owl's talons that are next to each other, moving into waves of water, sort of transforming into 2 waves of water, and it goes into what's known as an infinity sign. So I call it the owl infinity tattoo. The great horned owl is supposed to stand for knowledge, and you have to get the knowledge before you can get the wisdom for something. And it has, a point on its head above its nose where its beak is. And it's supposed to represent a cross, actually, behind the owl's eyes, and then going down is sort of like a face armor, if you will. And so that's the whole tattoo. I'd say it's about 1 inch in height and 3.5 inches in width, going down my left forearm. But that was really an amazing time. I printed out the picture and I went down to a studio, which I really love. They're called Ice 9 Studio in the South Side. And it's important to note at the time when I was looking for which studio to do this tattoo, because again, this is my first tattoo. I checked around several studios in this area called the South Side, which had many tattoo parlors at the time, but most of them were in the style of doing tattoos in the Ed Hardy design. If you're familiar with that artist or that fashion designer who creates the Ed Hardy clothing line with the tigers and the women and the daggers and things like that, and I'm sure there's many, many other designs that they have, but in that type of style, I didn't want that type of style for this tattoo. I wanted it to be more fine line work and just a black and white tattoo, no color, in Pittsburgh, and they're on 25th Street. I met a really interesting artist there. His name is James Bristol, and he's the one who did the tattoo for me, and he was a really down-to-earth guy, actually. We talked quite a bit, before the tattoo had begun. And he himself had his own portfolio sort of on the wall, you could say, from all his different drawings. He'd been working there for some time. But it was just a really neat person to talk to, and it was cool to be able, from one artist to another artist, to have him be able to put the tattoo on my arm. I'll tell you what, for my first tattoo experience, it was really, really surreal. It really felt like a sort of transformative experience. It was really cool. It was really cool. They had what's known as a piece of transference paper with a purple marker of the design, and what they did is, to begin, they rubbed my arm. First, they shaved the area, as you guys have probably seen many times. Usually, that happens when you go and get a tattoo, so the area is completely clean. They put some rubbing alcohol there, and in this case, they were able to put the transference paper right over the top of my, sterilized the area, put the transference paper right over top of it, and then they peeled it back to get the marking on my arm there in purple. And then that was essentially the way in which they were able to make it easier for them to, for him to trace with the tattoo pen. Later, in about the next couple of months, I had, you could say, what was an epiphany moment. Everything was just falling into the right places at that time. And I had a moment with God, and it really spoke to me at that time. And I wanted to get, at this point, another tattoo. So I ended up going back down to that same studio, Ice 9 Studio, in the south side. And on my right wrist, it was the Chinese symbol for God, for Zeni, and then above the all-seeing eye itself. So that's the other tattoo that I ended up getting there. Still the same fine point, black and white tattoo. Somebody by the name of Troy there was the other tattoo artist. At this point, some time had passed, and the third tattoo, which is on my right shoulder, is a tattoo that I ended up getting at the same studio, Ice 9 Studio. It was supposed to be for a Black Friday event, Friday the 13th. I'll never forget it because I went there after work, and I sat there for a good 2 hours, but the list of people there was just so long, and there were so many people there, that I ended up not getting that tattoo on the same night. So the following day, which would have been that Saturday, I ended up going back down there after work, and this was in the year of 2018, and I ended up getting the tattoo. At the time, it was pretty cool. The pricing model was, for $31, so they reversed the numbers of Friday the 13th, and that was making it the price $31 for any tattoo that was, and some of them had color in it. So I decided to get one that had an eagle that looked like it was, reaching down, and there were some colored flowers with the number 13 at the bottom of his talons. And so that's what the tattoo looks like. And the fourth tattoo is of a quote that has always had so much meaning to me for dealing with things I've overcome in my life. Where there's a will, there's a way. And this was the tattoo on my chest, across my chest, from T, my man T from Inksburg, right by Edgewood Town Center in Swissvale. And he did a great job. Well, that's it for tattoos. If you guys ever decide to get a tattoo, it definitely is quite a great experience. I would say, make sure to put a lot of thought into it before you get one, because it will be on you forever. Tattoos are great, but if once you get one, make sure you really like it, because it's going to be on you forever. Alright guys, so that's going to wrap up our favorite things section. Moving on to the next, which will be what things you like to cook. What are your favorite things to cook? I like to cook beef stir fry. That's one of my favorite dishes to cook in the wok. If you guys are familiar with the wok, but if not, it is like a bowl, metal bowl, essentially, that has a handle, like if you see a regular pot, but it's a huge metal bowl with a handle. It's called a wok. And that's so much fun to cook out of. And that's how I make this beef stir fry. So how you make beef stir fry, guys, is first you want to get the list of ingredients here. You're going to get the flank steak or beef steak of some kind, not too thick, just something really thin. I guess like a flank steak, something like that. And then you're going to get your package. I just, got a package of frozen vegetables, which had the necessary vegetables in it. You really can mix like any carrots, beans you want with it, but usually most of the time you use a form of peppers, red peppers and green peppers, and also water chestnuts and white onions as well. So once you have that, I just usually, like I said, you can get a frozen bag of vegetables like that in any grocery store. Will have it. Usually it'll be labeled stir-fried vegetables. Once you have those ingredients, you can put the frozen bag of vegetables in the microwave and heat it up as per the directions on the microwave. Once that's microwaving, then you can put your sesame oil or I like to use a low sodium soy sauce in it, and then turn up the heat to like a medium volume, maybe like 6 or 7, a little higher than medium. Then go ahead and put in your steak, your strip steak or your flank of steak, actually chopped up. Put it in there, let it braise on one side for a minute, then braise on the other. Afterward, you're going to cook that up pretty well and cooked, and then at that point you'll put in your mixed vegetables, the green peppers, the bag that you have for the microwave. Put that up and pour that in there. You're going to want to keep pouring the soy sauce along the way through there. And also, if you wanted to put some either hemp oil or sesame oil through there, it really marries it together. It makes it nice, and there's a smooth texture there. It also cooks in that sauce really well. You're going to leave it on, medium heat for some time again while moving the wok, back and forth, of course, and stirring it around with your spatula in there. All right. And then once that's been cooking for probably about, 10 to 15 minutes, then at that point, you can take it out of the wok and you're done. Really, really neat stuff there, guys. And so that is beef stir fry. Again, I have made it in the wok before. It is a great meal to share with your family and friends. Okay, guys, so that's going to wrap up our section there of what do you like to cook. All right, and the next topic we will discuss is what inspires you, or what are your inspirations. What inspires me as of lately are people that are frontline workers amidst this pandemic, since the beginning up until now, up to current, and also people that get up every day amidst hardship. People that doing their jobs as parents, especially. I know that my brother is a rising star, and being a parent, he's a great dad. He has a wife, Amanda, and his daughter, Lillian. And he's a hard worker, let me tell you. He has his own stairlift company called American Lifts and Service, located out of Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. He has been doing that for a number of years now, about 10 plus years in that industry. From learning how to install the lifts and be a lift installer, going all the way up to management, and now owning his own business. So my hat goes off to my brother. I'm so proud of him and the work that he's doing and helping out people, especially who cannot help up themselves in regard to installing these lifts. He does stair lifts, elevator lifts, hanging lifts from the ceiling. So kudos to you, big bro. Definitely a shout out to your efforts as a dad and as a family man and as a businessman. Now, Amanda, which is his wife, owns her own grooming shop to help out washing dogs specifically. So kudos to her for doing that type of work. It isn't easy work, guys. You have to have a lot of preparation involved with that type of business, and she has managed it beautifully. And their daughter, Lillian, she is just turned 10 this year. She's very, very smart, up-and-comer. Very, very, I love her to death. She's a great niece to have, and every time I go over there, she's just a ball of light and joy. And keep on going, Lily. You're going to do amazing things. Just keep on being as intelligent as you are, and her favorite subject is arithmetic. Another thing that inspires me is all the single people out there who don't have a special someone, you keep going amidst, hardships in their lives every day, they're trying and willing and trying over and over again through work and through making friendships and building relationships, you know. And if they want a family one day, then great. Otherwise, if they don't, then that's something that's their choice. So kudos to all the single people out there as well. I'm thinking about you, and definitely the love goes out there to all you single people. Another thing that inspires me are people that are going to school to try to better themselves and better their education in regard to progressing in this world and advancing themselves in their future career. I know that for myself, I went to the Art Institute of Pittsburgh to become a concept artist in the game industry. I had a little side gig outside of when I was done with school. About a year later, I worked for a company called Mojo Game Studios. They were a company based out of Maryland, independent game studio. I did concept art for them for the next several months until nearing the end of the year. They had started what's known as an Indiegogo campaign, which they were trying to raise $20,000 within a period of 3 months. I personally thought that it was a little bit too high of a mark, and I had missed one of the meetings in which we were discussing the finalization of that in regard to what our opinions were about it. I was not there for that meeting, therefore I could not voice my opinion. And with that being said, I bowed out gracefully. So that was nearing the end of the year 2015. I did have another gig in which I worked for a company called Park Studios, in which I created some 3D models for and texturing for a journalism studio that was based out of Sacramento, California. The College of Sacramento, California's journalism program. So that was really interesting. So those are the two things that I really did that were relating to what I went to school for. Aside from trying to build my portfolio through Behance.net and also through ArtStation.com, those are both really good sites for 2D artists to build their portfolios or have a professional-looking portfolio. ArtStation is more so a gaming community in which creates 2D and 3D works for making games, and the other Behance is better for illustrators, concept artists, and graphic designers, especially graphic designers. So, another Behancer, want to let you guys know about is my sister, Heather. She has a Behance. Her Behance is behance.net//artwater, A-R-T water. So she's a graphic designer, actually, by trade, and she went to York College to be a graphic designer. Many kudos to those who are completing school, who are in school right now, or just starting school, post-secondary education, whatever that might be, graduate school, your doctorate, if you're going for your master's, your bachelor's, associate's degree, whatever degree you're getting and whatever profession or career that you are trying to get a job in. Many kudos to you. It is not an easy thing to be able to do that, through whichever courses that you're going through and however long you are going through them. So with that being said, again, very good to everyone out there who is trying to future their further education. And also I want to give a shout out to the people that are in trades, because just as well as people that are in academia and trying to, spread their knowledge and learn more about that career path and progress in that, trades are just the other side of that. Cooling in AC or heating in AC, electricians, construction jobs. Those jobs are also very laborious work, but you also have to be very knowledgeable in those fields as well, with the machinery that you're using and the tools that you're using and the systems that are laid out for using those tools and how to use them, and where to use them and in which ways, and also trucking industry as well. So, these are all things that tend to inspire me and help me catapult forward in my life. And it's so great to see all of those people trying to progress as much as they can within those industries. So very good to everyone, and my hat goes off to all of you as well. I like to think about it this way. Imagine if you have a hospital Okay, you have a doctor, nurses, and medical staff, all alike, that are there in the building to help out people that have very critical needs, either in the ICU or the ER, or just having a doctor's visit. And then on the other side of that, you think of the building that they're in, that they're all standing in. That has to be created by construction workers, and a city planner has to have the plot for the building to be created and draw out the blueprints for that, those construction workers to work on that building. And you have the foreman and everyone who's involved in the construction team, from the bricklayers to the concrete pourers to the, hierarchy to oversee that project. So it just makes me think of how it's really cool, and then what's inspiring to me is that all of this in unison creates, the livable world that we are in, and with more and more helping hands with each other, will create that much more of a better world for everybody who's living in it. This makes me think of back in the day when I had my perspective drawing class, and how when you're drawing a building, for example, in regard to 2D perspective, you have to have the horizon line, which would be essentially the furthest out you can see with your eyes, in which there are 2 points drawn on the very right hand side of the line and at the far left hand side of the line. And in the middle, when you start to draw your points, in which will create the box that will be your 3-dimensional eventual shape, you create those 3 lines and then connecting them with diagonals that arise at the top and the bottom of those points, which will create your cube in 3D space. So we have to start with a foundation, and then from there you can start adding in your windows and your doors and the banner on the side of the building or the archway above it, things of that nature. We have to create a foundation in our lives before you can build off of that foundation. There needs to be something holding you or tethering you to the ground before you can start building off of that foundation, and therefore will continue to allow you to build more and more of your life because you have that grounding for yourself. And with that, I want to touch upon that quote that I mentioned earlier in the podcast, where there is a will, there's a way. That quote is the quote I have across my chest. I got that tattoo, as I had mentioned earlier in the podcast, as my 4th tattoo. And that has really, really stuck with me. I remember my dad, when I was really little, he would always say that quote. And that was one of the inspirations for getting that tattoo, actually, because I remember he would always say that in times of, when there was a problem going on or something just needed to be fixed or resolved. And, his attitude really, really made the problem seem less like a problem. And that's something I wanted to make a mention of, because I think it's really important to keep that in mind, that if you have an issue or a problem going on in your life, and you remember that quote, where there's a will, there's a way, that essentially means that there's always a way out. There's always a solution. And to never forget that in times of hardship and in strife, and when you're having a problem or issue in your life, that no matter what, as long as you remember that, then there's a way out. There's a solution to that problem in some way, shape, or form. And so that's why that quote is just so close to me personally, and with people that I've known and encounters that I've had and instances that I've had in my life. It just is really, really good to keep that mentality. All right, guys, and that's going to wrap up the what inspires you or what are your inspirations section here. Moving on to the next section, which will be what type of music do you like, or what is your favorite type of music? We'll get more into that in just a moment.